There are places in life where silence speaks louder than words. Your home is one of them. It reflects not only how you live, but how you think, how you feel, and how you carry your inner world. When the spirit is at ease, the home breathes gently. But when something within begins to weaken, the signs appear quietly, often unnoticed. The first sign is constant clutter that never settles. Not the kind that comes from a busy day, but the kind that lingers without intention. Objects pile up, corners gather dust, and things lose their place. This is not just physical disorder, it mirrors a restless mind. When clarity fades within, the outer world begins to reflect confusion. A peaceful space does not require perfection, but it does require awareness. When you stop noticing your surroundings, you have already begun to drift away from presence. The second sign is neglected light. Curtains remain closed even during the day, rooms feel dim, and fresh air rarely enters. Light is more than brightness, it carries energy, warmth, and renewal. When a home resists light, it often reflects a heart that has become heavy. Darkness, when chosen unconsciously, feeds stagnation. A living space should welcome the day, not hide from it. Opening a window is a simple act, yet it is also a quiet declaration that you are ready to receive life again. The third sign is objects without meaning. Many homes are filled with things that no longer serve a purpose, items kept out of habit, impulse, or attachment. These objects silently drain attention. They anchor you to moments that no longer exist. When your space is crowded with the unnecessary, your mind struggles to focus on what truly matters. Letting go is not loss, it is liberation. Each item you release creates space, not just in your home, but within your thoughts. The fourth sign is absence of stillness. A home filled constantly with noise, television, phones, distractions leaves no room for reflection. Silence becomes uncomfortable, even avoided, but without stillness you cannot hear yourself. The mind becomes dependent on distraction and awareness slowly fades. A balanced home allows moments where nothing is happening yet everything feels complete. In those moments you reconnect with your own presence. The fifth sign is a lack of care in small things. A broken handle left unfixed, a stain ignored, a bed left undone not because of time but because of indifference. These small acts reveal a deeper truth. When you stop caring about the little things, you begin to disconnect from life itself. Care is a form of mindfulness. It shows respect for your environment and for your own existence. Every small action, when done with attention, strengthens your inner discipline. None of these signs appear suddenly. They grow slowly, quietly over time. And because they are subtle, they are easy to ignore. But the good news is this: just as decay happens gradually, so does restoration. You do not need to transform everything at once. Begin with one corner. Open one window. Remove one unnecessary item. Sit in silence for a few minutes each day. Repair one small thing. These simple actions are not just changes in your home, they are shifts within you. Your home is not separate from your inner state. It is a reflection of it. When you bring awareness into your space, you invite clarity into your mind. When you care for your surroundings, you begin to care more deeply for yourself. Listen to what your home is telling you. It has been speaking all along. Clutter reflects inner confusion. Constant, unmanaged clutter is a sign of a restless and unfocused mind, showing a lack of inner clarity and awareness. Clutter does not appear in a single moment. It builds quietly, almost invisibly, until one day it feels normal. At first, it may just be a few misplaced items, a book left on a table, clothes resting on a chair, small things waiting to be returned to their place. But when these things are not attended to with awareness, they begin to gather. One item invites another, and slowly the space loses its sense of order. This is not simply a matter of physical untidiness, it reflects something deeper happening within. A cluttered space often mirrors a cluttered mind. When thoughts are scattered, when attention is divided, and when the present moment is ignored, the outer environment begins to take on the same qualities. You may walk through your home without truly seeing it, stepping over things, adjusting around them, accepting disorder as if it belongs there. In this state, awareness fades. You are present in body but not fully in mind. Clutter also carries a subtle weight. Even if you are not consciously thinking about it, your mind is constantly processing your surroundings. Every object competes for a small piece of your attention. When there are too many objects without intention or place, this creates a quiet mental exhaustion. You may feel restless without knowing why, distracted without a clear cause. The environment is speaking, but in a language that is easy to overlook. There is also a connection between clutter and avoidance. Sometimes things are left where they are not because of laziness, but because facing them requires a small effort of decision: where to put this, whether to keep it, whether it still has value. When these decisions are postponed again and again, they accumulate just like the objects themselves. Over time, this habit of postponing spreads beyond physical things and begins to affect thoughts, emotions, and responsibilities. Restoring order does not mean creating perfection. It begins with noticing. When you truly see your space without judgment, you begin to reconnect with it. Picking up a single object and returning it to its place may seem insignificant, but it is an act of awareness. It is a quiet statement that you are no longer drifting unconsciously. As you clear your surroundings, something within you also begins to clear. The mind feels lighter, more focused, more at ease. Space opens not only around you but inside you, and in that space there is room for calm, for clarity, and for a deeper sense of presence. Lack of light signals low energy dark, closed spaces indicate emotional heaviness and spiritual stagnation, while light and fresh air bring renewal and balance. Light enters quietly, yet its presence changes everything. A space filled with natural light feels open, alive, and at ease, while a dim and closed environment often carries a subtle heaviness that is difficult to explain. When light is neglected, when curtains remain drawn, windows stay shut, and fresh air is kept outside, it is not only the room that becomes dull, but the inner state of the one living within it. This is because human awareness is deeply connected to the environment, and light plays a powerful role in shaping that connection. A home that resists light often reflects a form of withdrawal. It is not always intentional. Sometimes it begins with a habit of waking up and not opening the curtains, choosing artificial light over sunlight, keeping windows closed out of convenience. Over time, this habit becomes a pattern, and the pattern becomes a way of living. The outside world feels distant, and the home becomes a closed shell. In such a space, energy does not flow freely, becomes still, heavy, and unmoving. Light is not only physical brightness, it carries a sense of renewal. Each morning brings a quiet opportunity to begin again, and natural light is a reminder of that rhythm. When you allow it to enter your space, you are also allowing a shift within yourself. The mind becomes more alert, the body feels more awake, and emotions begin to settle. But when light is blocked, this natural rhythm is disrupted. Days may feel slower, heavier, and less defined, as if time itself is passing without clarity. There is also a deeper symbolism in how one relates to light. Avoiding it can sometimes reflect an inner resistance and unwillingness to face certain thoughts, emotions, or realities. Darkness can feel safe because it hides things, softens details, and reduces the need to see clearly. But this comfort is temporary. What is hidden does not disappear, it simply remains unseen, waiting. In this way, a dim environment can quietly support avoidance, making it easier to stay disconnected from what truly needs attention. Inviting light into your home is a simple act, yet it carries meaning. Opening a curtain in the morning is not just about brightness, it is a gesture of willingness to see, to feel, to engage with the present moment. Letting fresh air in clears not only the room but also the mind, creating a sense of movement where there was once stagnation. These small actions begin to shift the atmosphere, making the space feel lighter and more supportive. As light fills a room, it reveals things as they are. It does not judge or change them, but it allows them to be seen clearly. In the same way, when you welcome light into your life, you begin to see yourself with greater clarity. And in that clarity, there is the possibility of balance, awareness, and quiet renewal. Attachment to unnecessary objects, keeping items without purpose, creates mental burden and distraction. Letting go brings freedom and clarity. Objects enter our lives quietly. A purchase made in a moment of desire, a gift received and kept out of obligation. Something once useful that no longer serves a purpose. Over time, these things begin to gather. At first they seem harmless, even comforting. Each item carries a memory, a possibility, or a sense of identity. But when these objects are no longer meaningful or necessary, they begin to take up more than just physical space. They occupy attention, energy, and thought. Holding on to unnecessary objects is often rooted in attachment, not always a deep emotional attachment, but a subtle one, the feeling that I might need this someday, or it would be wasteful to let this go. These thoughts appear reasonable, yet they create a quiet burden. Each item kept without purpose becomes a small thread tying you to the past or to imagined futures that may never come. Over time, these threads weave into a net that makes it harder to move freely, both physically and mentally. A space filled with such objects begins to lose its clarity. When everything is kept, nothing stands out. The things that truly matter, those that serve your life or bring genuine value, become hidden among the unnecessary. This creates a subtle confusion in the mind. You may find it harder to focus, to relax, or even to make decisions. The environment becomes crowded, and so does your attention. There is also an unspoken cost to keeping what is no longer needed. Every object requires a small amount of care, even if it is only the effort of moving it, cleaning around it, or storing it. When these small efforts accumulate, they create a background sense of fatigue. You may not notice it directly, but it shapes how you feel in your own space. Instead of supporting you, the environment begins to weigh you down. Letting go is often misunderstood as loss, but in truth it is an act of clarity. When you choose to release an object that no longer serves a purpose, you are not rejecting it, you are acknowledging its time has passed. This requires honesty. It asks you to look at each item and ask a simple question: does this still have a place in my life as it is now? If the answer is no, then holding on to it only creates resistance. As you begin to remove what is unnecessary, something shifts. Space opens up, not just on shelves and in corners, but in the mind. The environment becomes easier to navigate, easier to maintain, and more supportive of calm and focus. The things that remain begin to feel more intentional, more aligned with who you are in the present moment. In this process, you also learn something deeper, that your sense of self is not contained in the things you own. It is not defined by accumulation but by awareness. And when you are no longer surrounded by what you do not need, it becomes easier to recognize what truly matters. No space for silence, continuous noise, and distractions prevent self-reflection, weakening awareness and inner connection. Noise has a way of filling every empty space if it is allowed to. It enters through screens, conversations, notifications, and constant background sounds that seem harmless at first. A television playing without attention, a phone always within reach, music or voices continuing simply to avoid quiet, these patterns slowly become part of daily life. At some point, silence begins to feel unfamiliar, even uncomfortable, and without noticing it, the mind becomes dependent on distraction. When a home is always filled with noise, there is no room left for stillness, yet stillness is where awareness deepens. It is in quiet moments that thoughts settle, emotions become clear, and understanding begins to arise. Without these moments, the mind remains in a constant state of movement, jumping from one stimulus to another. This creates a kind of inner restlessness that does not easily fade, even when the body is at rest. Continuous noise also acts as a form of escape. It can prevent you from facing what is within unresolved thoughts, lingering emotions, or simple questions about your direction in life. As long as there is something to listen to or watch, there is no need to turn inward. This may feel easier in the moment, but over time it creates distance between you and your own awareness. You begin to lose the ability to sit with yourself without needing something external to fill the space. In a home without stillness, even moments of rest are not truly restful. You may sit down after a long day, but the mind continues to absorb information, react to sounds, and follow distractions. This keeps the inner world active, even when there is nothing that truly requires your attention. Gradually, this pattern weakens your ability to focus, to reflect, and to experience calm without effort. Silence, on the other hand, is not empty, it is full in a different way. It allows you to notice small things, the rhythm of your breath, the feeling of the space around you, the presence of your own thoughts without interruption. At first, this may feel unfamiliar. The mind, used to constant stimulation, may try to resist it. But if you remain with it, even for a short time, a shift begins to happen. Creating space for stillness does not require removing all sound. It begins with small, intentional moments. Turning off unnecessary noise, setting aside time without devices, or simply sitting quietly in a room without seeking distraction. These moments act as a reset, allowing the mind to slow down and return to a more natural state. As stillness becomes part of your environment, it also becomes part of you. You begin to carry a sense of calm that is not dependent on external conditions. The home feels more balanced, more supportive, and more alive in a quiet way. And within that quiet, there is clarity and understanding that does not need words, only presence. Neglect of small details, ignoring minor repairs, and daily care shows growing indifference, which leads to disconnection from mindfulness and discipline. Small things are often overlooked because they seem insignificant. A loose handle on a door, a flickering light, a stain that has been ignored, a bed left undone day after day, none of these appear urgent. They do not demand immediate attention, and so they are postponed. It can wait, the mind says, and in many cases it does wait. But what is not always seen is how these small acts of neglect begin to shape a larger pattern over time. When care is absent in the little things, it is rarely limited to the physical environment. It reflects a shift in attention, a quiet fading of awareness. You pass by what needs to be done, not because you cannot do it, but because you are no longer fully present with what is in front of you. This is how indifference begins, not as a strong feeling, but as a gradual disconnection from the details of daily life. Each small task carries an opportunity for mindfulness. Fixing something that is broken, cleaning a surface, arranging a space, these are not just chores. They are moments where attention meets action. When done with awareness, even the simplest task becomes meaningful. It grounds you in the present and strengthens a sense of responsibility toward your surroundings. But when these moments are ignored repeatedly, the connection weakens. You begin to live around things rather than engage with them. There is also a subtle message in every neglected detail. A broken object left unrepaired suggests that it is acceptable for things to remain incomplete. A space left uncared for suggests that it does not deserve attention. Over time, this mindset can extend inward. You may begin to treat your own time, energy, and well-being with the same lack of care. What starts as physical neglect quietly becomes internal neglect. The accumulation of small issues also creates a background tension. Even if you are not consciously thinking about them, they remain in your awareness. You see them in passing, you adjust around them, and they occupy a small part of your attention each time. This repeated exposure creates a sense of unease that is difficult to define. It is not caused by one major problem, but by many minor ones left unresolved. Caring for small things does not require great effort. In fact, it is often quicker to address something immediately than to let it remain. Making your bed in the morning, fixing a loose screw, wiping a surface, placing things where they belong, these actions take only moments, but they carry a deeper impact. They create a sense of order, completion, and respect for your space. As you begin to give attention to these details, something within you also shifts. You become more present, more intentional, and more connected to your environment. The home starts to feel supportive rather than draining. And in this process, you realize that care is not measured by the size of the action, but by the awareness you bring to it.